Test Drive with Graeme Fletcher.
The word stylus means different things to different people. To an audiophile, it means a needle. To us on Motoring 91, it means this. This being the 1991 Isuzu Stylus. Now this sporty four-door sedan is based on the popular Impulse Coupe.
There is a small badge on the dash that says that the handling is by Lotus. This promises a lot, and believe me, the Stylus delivers. The handling characteristics offered by the suspension are superb. The whole setup is tactile and crisp, and yet subtle and surprisingly compliant. Push this car into a clover leaf, and the way it sticks to your chosen line is a real credit to the design. This level of comfort and performance, especially in this price category, is the exception that makes the rule. During the pylon test, the car bobbed and weaved with very little body roll, and thanks to some sticky 60 series Bridgestone tyres, there was virtually no understeer. All in all, high praise for a very deserving setup.
This little 1.6 litre 16 valve twin cam produces plenty of horsepower. The drawback being you've got to operate the engine between 3,000 and 5,000 RPM to access it. Now this in turn means that you get a fair amount of engine noise and vibration, which is a shame because this car drives very nicely.
As I mentioned, the engine produces plenty of horses, 130 to be exact. This power is relayed to the front wheels via a 5-speed manual transmission. The shift pattern and clutch operation are fine. The problem here is that the first 3 gears are very low, meaning there's an awful lot of shifting to do around town. This situation is compounded by the 411 gears in the transaxle. The reason for selecting these ratios is to try to overcome the total lack of low-end performance. In my view, they've still got some work to do here yet. The Stylus features a 4-wheel disc brake system. The pedal is easy to modulate, and despite the lack of an anti-lock feature, the stops are controlled, straight and short. On the skid pad, we recorded stopping distances of 119 feet from 80 kilometers an hour. Typical of most cars with rear disc brakes, the parking brake has to be pulled up tight to ensure the car remains stationary when parked. The dash features a comprehensive set of clearly marked analog gauges. They are flanked on either side by the light and wiper switches. Unlike the other Isuzu products we've tested, the radio and heater controls fall fairly readily to hand. The front seats are comfortable, and thanks to some fairly large side bolsters, they provide plenty of lateral support. The lack of a tilt steering feature places the steering wheel a little high. Other than that, the driving position is very good. As with the driver, the front passenger is treated to plenty of room. The rear environment is a little on the cramped side, but is nonetheless comfortable. The rear seat backs are split and fold down to allow access to the trunk, a handy feature because the trunk is not overly spacious.
These power window controls make up this week's pet peeve. First of all, they're angled away from the driver, and secondly, they're not illuminated, meaning at night you must literally grope in the dark to use them. Anyway, now to the scoreboard for a rundown on the 1991 Isuzu Stylus.
The Lotus-tuned suspension combined with a good set of tyres gives this sedan truly amazing handling characteristics. Rarely do you find such a well-balanced setup. Needless to say, I was impressed. The lack of low-end torque puts a bit of a dent in the overall performance numbers. We required a little over 10 seconds to reach 100 kilometers an hour. Once you get the engine up over 3,000 RPM though, the performance is fine. The 4-wheel disc brake setup provided short stops. We recorded stopping distances of 119 feet from 80k. Unlike the Impulse we tested, the brake pedal pressure required to produce these stops was normal, and there was no evidence of fade towards the end of the test. The overall comfort level of this sporty sedan is very high, provided that is you can put up with the racket the engine produces. Despite the thrashing the engine needs to make it perform, we recorded a very good 32 miles per gallon or 8.8 litres per 100 kilometers. For a small sporty sedan, the Stylus has some very endearing features. The phenomenal handling characteristics and a good fuel economy are but two. Upgrading the sound insulation and revising the gear ratios would make this car a lot more desirable.